Welcome, welcome everyone to another episode of Be Real Talks. I'm your host, Sophia Givre. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different on the show, so I am pretty excited. We have with us Binghamton University student Luz Velazquez, and she is going to be interviewing the interviewer. She's going to be speaking to me about my experience as a first-generation college student in a PhD program. So I would like to introduce everyone to Luz and turn it over to her.
Hi, everyone. My name is Luz. So I have the pleasure of interviewing today Ms. Sophia Givre. So Ms. Sophia is a first-generation college student that transferred from Sullivan County Community College to Binghamton University to pursue a bachelor's in sociology. She ended up continuing to receive a PhD in sociology. She was on track to pursue a career in academia, but realized that she wanted to have more of a direct impact on student success with holistic advising and mentoring. She spent some time as a counselor for an opportunity program and absolutely loved it. Due to her personal experiences and background in opportunity programs, she is passionate about helping students from historically underserved communities, and they're interested in helping them unlock their true potential and find successful career paths. Currently, she supports students' career development and success as a career consultant with the Fleischman Center.
Thanks for that introduction. Looking forward to the interview.
Yeah, so let's get started. So the first question for today is, what motivated you to pursue a college degree?
So for me, I would definitely say that I saw it as a way to kind of get out of the situation that I was in. So I was a low-income student, and I will definitely say that senior year, I started to get very worried about my financial situation. I started looking around at my peers and my family members, those who were closest to me, and I saw that they were just kind of constantly struggled, constant challenges, constant stress, right? So I don't know why, but I got it in my head that a way for me to get out of that situation was to go to college.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And with that as well, as a first generation student, what barriers did you face when applying for colleges, and what kind of guidance and support did you receive in high school to prepare for college?
So I love that this question is phrased in terms of what colleges I applied to. So I applied to one college every single time I applied to college. One college. So from high school to college, as a transfer to college, and even as a PhD student, which I learned is pretty uncommon, right? I went to school with people who applied to like 8 different colleges and all of that stuff. So the application process was very, very unfamiliar to me. Honestly, sometimes I look back and I wonder how I completed a FAFSA, how I'm here today. You know what I mean? That's very interesting for me to kind of think about. And in terms of the support I received from high school to college, so we had mandatory appointments with a guidance counselor, and I have very kind of distinct moments in my life that I remember, and this is one of those moments where I went to my meeting and I had no idea what I wanted to do. In high school, I actually attended trade school. I went to VOTEC for cosmetology. So he was kind of like, well, what do you want to do? And he almost seemed frustrated that I was unsure about it. And he was kind of frustrated that I didn't do research around it. And the way that his resolution to this was, I'm going to leave the room for about 10 to 15 minutes, go on the computer, try to figure out what you're interested in, try to figure out what schools you're interested in. And even being 18 or 17, however old I was, in that situation, I remember just thinking, I'm looking for advice, and this person's response, I'm already so lost, and this person's response is to leave me at a computer and try to figure it out. So very difficult time with the application process. And even up till grad school, I was unaware or unfamiliar of that application process too.
Wow, that just is so heartbreaking as well. You really needed that support. So even then, so what adjustments did you, what was the adjustment like from going from community college then to Binghamton University? And how did you handle that as well, since that transition to community college was also challenging?
Yeah, that was a big adjustment for me. And I will say the thing that stands out a lot is that culture shock. So at community colleges, a lot of them are different depending on where you go. But at the community college I went to, a lot of students kind of understood my situation, right? They were from backgrounds of poverty, definitely a lot of first gen. There were some older students there that had kind of experienced different careers and are going back to college to kind of get some more training. And then going to Binghamton, right? I definitely considered it bougie. I will say that, right? I thought that people were from parts of the city or Long Island that I was kind of unfamiliar with. I will say that I felt that a lot of the students went to schools that I knew were a lot better than the ones that I went to. So that kind of culture shock caused me to really kind of go into a mode of, I guess it could be seen as kind of a survival instinct of, I have to do really well academically and kind of like put my head down, do what I had to do to really, really get by and strive to do well. But it was a totally new environment. Even if I think about the orientation at Binghamton, I remember the ways that people were interacting with me was kind of strange, right? I wasn't really used to that kind of space for sure. And I don't even know if I would have gone to the orientation if it weren't for, I had a friend who was attending Binghamton too, and they were going.
Wow, yeah, that's so interesting. And so while you were at Binghamton, what support did you receive? And how did you navigate through that college experience without guidance from your parents? And additionally, did you ever doubt yourself during your time at Binghamton?
Yeah, great question. So I received support at other colleges I went to, for instance, EOP and different kinds of scholarships. At Binghamton, wasn't a part of those programs. Basically, navigating college was very, very difficult. My mom, for instance, she still asks me how school is, right? And I'm a professional working at a career center. So they're very kind of unfamiliar with what I'm doing half the time or how college works or any of that stuff. I definitely doubted myself a lot at Binghamton. And another kind of moment that stands out is the first time I was in an English class, writing class, something like that. I think it was a late ad or something. I remember going into the class and I literally had no idea what they were talking about. I didn't understand it. I did the readings, but whatever they gained from the reading, I definitely didn't. And so that was definitely that's where imposter syndrome really started for me in terms of kind of that comparison to where other people are at and always thinking about where you are and if you belong in those spaces, right? But I did for when I started working on an honors thesis, I had a really solid kind of mentor figure that started introducing me to aspects of college that were kind of helpful and kind of made me feel like I belonged more at Binghamton and that my voice and my experience was important. And definitely just finding the sociology department, I will say, that was a space where I could connect with the students more and felt more of a sense of belonging.
Yeah, definitely. And just speaking on that factor of like imposter syndrome, what factors contributed to your decision to pursue a PhD? And did you have like a sense of imposter syndrome along that journey as well?
Yeah, so for me, I would say, again, I kind of compare it to the feelings I had when I was a senior in high school. I got similar feelings in college where I was getting a little bit worried about what I was going to do after I graduated and what I would be able to do with my degree. I did not have a lot of knowledge around that. And, but a big part of it, honestly, was I was really, really passionate about sociology, right? For me, that allowed my lived experience to make a lot more sense. I was able to put words to my lived experience, theories, different statistics and data, and that allowed me to understand, disproportionate access to resources and how different institutions are run and how that shapes individuals' lives. And I wanted to teach other people about sociology. I wanted to work with students who found themselves kind of feeling alienated and lost and really expose them to words and kind of tools to be able to understand their experience in that sort of way. So that love for sociology and just being an educator, right? I found I really, really liked working with college age students and having that direct impact in their success But when it came to actually kind of being in the program, I think this was the height of my imposter syndrome in my life so far, right? Because if I thought students were bougie before, they definitely were bougie now, especially in these research programs. I was going to school with people who had that cosmopolitan lifestyle. They went to school in Europe and all these other places. I was going to school with people, you know, their family members. I kind of consider them famous to me, right? They were doing like really cool, crazy things. I was working for Sodexo for the first year of graduate school, and unfortunately, there was a student, one of my peers, who saw me working and kind of had a really weird reaction. He started laughing in a way and was literally confused that I was working, and a lot of questions around why I was doing that. And the way that I handled it, which is really unfortunate, is in those classes, I was really, really quiet. I was afraid that if I spoke, then like, you know, the whole found outness of imposter syndrome of, oh, they don't belong there. They don't have the same education and skill set as the others in the room. So that was the height of imposter syndrome for me.
Yeah, and thank you so much for being open on that. That's definitely a big challenge to overcome as a first-gen student. So going forward with that as well, beyond your PhD, can you speak a little bit on the job search process and the challenges you face navigating that as well?
For sure. So with the job search, I see a lot of parallels in applying to college and applying to jobs. And I encourage all first-gen students to really think about those as skill sets, not so much content-based. So for me, I really just I used to hate writing cover letters. I hated it. Like, I did not enjoy the experience, and now I nerd out about it. I love it. I love tailoring cover letters to different job applications and opportunities. I actually think it's fun, which is weird. I didn't know really where to look, you know, where are legitimate jobs to be found, especially when I was first applying. When I was a PhD candidate, applying for academic jobs is intense, right? Diversity statement, research statement, teaching statement. Who are you? Why do you want to go to this school? So very, very unfamiliar with the application materials. I found that to be a challenge, and even knowing where jobs were posted. I would also say my experiences that I had was a challenge, right? I worked for food service, retail, all the time. Every summer, I kind of worked jobs that would pay me money, and I wasn't so focused on managing my career and tailoring my experiences to my long-term goals. I don't think I had a clear enough picture of my long-term goals all the time. So I encourage other students to definitely take advantage of those internships and really see them more, focus less on the kind of short-term gains that other jobs can really bring. And I downplayed my experience way too much. You know, when I was in job interview settings, when I was working on application materials, I remember I reached out to someone who actually works at Binghamton, and I was just looking for advice, and they mentioned that one of a job candidate for a position had written that they had financial aid experience just because they helped their kid work on their FAFSA. So when I heard stuff like that, I was like, I'm really downplaying my experience. I didn't have a clear understanding of how to articulate skills, which was really, really important. And I didn't understand how to navigate an interview properly. So Big Interview definitely became my best friend. You know, one of my first interviews was just a dumpster fire, right? I probably asked all the questions I asked, I think, are what not to ask in an interview. So interesting for sure.
Yes, definitely. It's a huge challenge navigating from like your time as a student to then the professional world. So that being said as well, when entering your career, what struggles did you face there? And how did you find yourself adjusting to that professional world?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question for students to understand. So I would say that my experience just I see the similar challenges pop up just in different spaces. So same with the culture shock, right? I'm not used to being around people or family members who have these professional kinds of jobs. From my perspective, a lot of notions of professionalism are rooted in very homogeneously kind of middle class, white kinds of beliefs and understandings of how you should conduct yourself in the workplace. So that was pretty unfamiliar to me. And I struggled a lot kind of connecting at first to the professional space or kind of understanding how to navigate that space. I will say what really, really helped me a lot is having the benefit of working with very strong leaders. So, and this is particularly in the time when I worked for opportunity programs. Just individuals who gave me the confidence to really know that my perspective and my input is valuable, especially in places where I can't relate to a lot of the perspectives of others, right? Because those voices are needed. And if everybody's agreeing and I kind of know internally that that's causing disadvantages for other students or certain students aren't being represented in those spaces, then it's important for me to speak. It's important for me to have confidence in that. And I was really inspired by their leadership in the fact of not only just building me up and helping me know the importance of having your voice, but they were really strong leaders. They were very, very student-centered. They made me realize that my values were important, and no matter what space I was in or, maybe people disagreed, it was still important and very much needed in these professional settings.
Yes, thank you so much. And just wrapping up everything you've said, what advice would you give to a first-generation student who is trying to simply navigate through college and also navigating through their first job?
So yes, great question. I have all of the advice. First thing I would say is really, really focus on effective communication and be proactive about it. So a lot of the advice I have, there are parallels between how to do well in college and the workplace. So for instance, with that communication, right, I know because of the imposter syndrome in me, I didn't really want to tell anybody when I was facing challenges, if I couldn't meet a deadline, if I couldn't complete an assignment, if I couldn't meet up for a group activity, right? And I think based on my experience and working with other students, other first generation students, right, in letting them know the importance of that communication, being proactive about it so that professors, so that supervisors have that understanding and have the option of really granting you the flexibility of moving those deadlines. And you don't have to say, you don't have to be super vulnerable and you don't have to disclose every single thing about the situation, but just letting them kind of know that there's a family emergency is really, really important and gives people an idea and know that you're not just kind of a flake, right? That you do see these commitments as important. There's just other things kind of getting in the way. Another thing that I would say is really when it comes to kind of your future and job opportunities, to really pursue practical passions. So a lot of the times students are told, follow your passions, follow your passions. If you really are in college because you want to get out of the economic situation that you are in, it's important. A part of your value is that financial component. So really, really have that balance between, making an income that's going to help you while also following your passion. Because if you have that balance, then you'll be able to manage your career early. You'll be able to really have reflected on your values, and you'll know that these are the things you have to be doing. This is where your heart is. For instance, there are a lot of students who pursue majors in the STEM because they think it will make a lot of money, but they hate the classes, they hate everything about it. That's usually an indication that you're not going to enjoy working for those places. So find that balance. You can still find a job where you can make, a good amount of money. Also know there are different sacrifices, right? So I know I am, and I've spoken to so many students who are passionate about giving back and helping others who are in similar situations. No, you are not going to be making six figures with those jobs. That's just how it works. Hopefully things change in our society, but at this moment, no, you're going to have to make a little bit of a sacrifice with the income there, right? Another thing is really have a solid support network And, that goes back to that one person who helped me realize that I did belong at Binghamton and mentored me. Those strong leaders who helped me really find my voice and confidence in that voice. And that one person adds up, that becomes your network. They're going to become people that understand your experiences, that see you grow, that know who you are as a person, right? And you can lean on those people for advice. Those are the people who are going to be honest with you. And they're going to build you up when you need to be built up. And they're also going to let you know what you need to hear in situations when you're not always 100% right? Maybe you're not considering something and you need to hear it. And they're also going to be people that I know, I call them, I kind of vent, and it's from a place of understanding, right? They've had similar kinds of experiences to me, and it really, really helps me recharge, gives me that energy. So have that strong network for sure. Take advantage of resources available to you. I know that because of that whole, I have to do well academically and kind of just struggling to fit in kind of thing, I never really went to career centers. I never went to academic advising, never joined any student organizations on campus. And all of that stuff is resume building stuff. That's community building stuff. Maybe I would have felt more included if I did those things. And if you have one bad experience at a club or an office, don't completely give up on the office, right? Maybe there's another person in that space that can understand you a little bit better, or maybe the person you were talking to was having an off day, right? No matter what the case is, give them an extra shot. As long as they're not openly biased and discriminating against you, really, really consider your resources and, think through utilizing them more. Another thing I definitely want to say is that students or recent grads, you belong wherever you are. If you're in a class or you're in a workspace and you're looking around and you don't relate to anybody and they don't look like you and you start to feel those feelings of alienation, it doesn't matter. You worked hard to be sitting where you are. You belong where you are. You're paying the same tuition as other students. Your voice is important. You add value to those spaces. And the same thing extends to the workplace. Don't let anybody kind of box you into what job you should be doing, into what industry you should be in. If that's where your passion is, if you know you're good at it, stick with it. You really, really belong there. I have another piece of very practical advice. Do not let people take advantage of you. And this is to new professionals in entry-level positions. There are going to be times, and it's very unfortunate, and I really wish this was not the case, but there are going to be people who know that you're coming in with lack of experience. You don't really understand how hierarchy works or how reporting to your supervisor works or different job responsibilities. Ask HR all of the questions. Be as informed as possible. Know your rights, know your benefits, know when you're being taken advantage of. If you feel weird about a situation, go with your gut, seriously, and kind of ask people in your network, reach out to HR. Don't let people delegate all the things they don't want to do to you. Really, really know that you shouldn't be taken advantage of. And then last piece of advice, because I've been going on for a while now, really just own who you are and get comfortable telling your story. That for me, imposter syndrome prevented a lot of me telling my story, or a lot of insight I could have provided in different situations. I really, really think that for first generation students, all of the challenges that we've faced, all the obstacles that we've encountered, it's built all of our strengths so much. We're super resilient people. It helps you be an effective problem solver, so own who you are, get used to telling your story. You'll be able to inspire others, and you'll be able to have you'll be able to make a workspace more inclusive and accommodating.
Thank you so much. As a fellow first gen, that was amazing advice and super empowering. And I just have a final question just on something you mentioned as well, like really utilizing your resources and going out of your way to get that support. But I myself, as a first gen, struggled immensely with that my first year and wasn't sure what questions to ask or like what even to look for. So do you have like maybe a little bit of advice that you can share? What kind of questions should I be asking as a first year student, as a first gen, or just how do I build up that courage to just walk into our career center and just go in there and find out what information I need? So do you have any advice on that as well?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Definitely relate to that, right? A big part of my story is learning from mistakes and not really knowing what questions to ask. I would say that a lot of the times administrators will put everything on websites, and I never looked in those places. So kind of going to those websites so that you have some idea of what the office is about. I know there are particular pages on the Binghamton webpage that has, these are certain resources to help you with this, especially with COVID-19, right? What websites should have looked like before is what they look like now. They're becoming a lot more comprehensive because people are using them more. So go to those websites and do that extra research. Ask people you're comfortable around. Ask your peers. If you see that some of your peers are being successful and taking advantage of resources and going to student orgs, start asking them questions, start going to meetings with them. Definitely, once you start feeling comfortable with a faculty member, with a staff member, push that relationship into a mentor relationship. Try to make that into something that is more intentional and meaningful. And then that's an ally right there. You can go to them, you can ask questions, you can even go through trials. I'm nervous about going to the Career Center. Can we kind of role play? Do you have any good questions I can ask? I think this is going to sound stupid. That's another thing I really want to emphasize. Nothing sounds stupid. Every question is important. Every office should be able to serve you and tailor their needs or tailor their service to your needs. And if they're not, then you need to file a complaint, seriously. So I want students to be comfortable to ask those questions and know, again, this is their space too.
Thank you so much. And that wraps up all my questions. So I really appreciate you taking the time to answer them and really help support other first-gen students. So I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Luz. Thank you to all the students watching. I hope you kind of enjoyed this flipped episode. To everyone out there, I will see you on the next one.